Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Steelers Spotlight. I'm Aaron Becker, and I'm excited to be joined today by a fellow reporter from the other side of the state of Pennsylvania, Devin Jackson of the Philadelphia Inquirer. Thanks for coming on. How's it going?
Doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on, Aaron. Looking forward to previewing this matchup against two teams that have been some of the best in football. So it'll be an exciting matchup at the link on Sunday, and excited to see how it all shakes out.
Absolutely. Like you said, it's going to be a heavyweight contest in this one. The 10-3 Steelers heading to Philadelphia to take on the 11-2 Eagles. The two teams have split the last six meetings, but the same can't be said about the Eagles' home dominance. They have been winning for a while. Steelers haven't won in Philadelphia since 1965. I know that's been a topic that has been going around the Steelers locker room a lot this week. But what do you think the reason is for the Eagles' dominance at home against the Steelers?
Yeah, I don't think is necessarily one thing or the other. I just think that historically the Eagles have defended their home turf pretty well. And obviously when you're playing another team in the same state, you want to come out and make a statement when you face them. But I just think it's more of a coincidence more than anything that the Eagles are necessarily doing because every time they play, the Eagles haven't been on the upswing necessarily, but I know in 2022, obviously the Eagles went on to play in the Super Bowl the last time these two teams played, and it happened to be at the link. Obviously, the Steelers still made the playoffs, but they weren't as strong as they were this year. But I think, at least in recent matchups, this is probably the best the both teams have looked individually, coming into this matchup. So I think, while history can sometimes give you insight on matchups, I don't necessarily think it's been necessarily one thing or the other that has led to the Eagles' this long home winning streak against the Steelers. But obviously, a lot will be on the line when these two teams play again on Sunday.
Like you said, there's a lot of new faces on both sides of this matchup this time. Maybe most notably for the Eagles is running back Saquon Barkley. Head coach Mike Tomlin said this past week that Barkley is the most significant acquisition in the NFL this offseason. And I think he's pretty much right on that, right? I mean, Barkley's been literally running away as the NFL's rushing leader. He's on pace to potentially break Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record. I don't think there's any, I guess, stopping Barkley, if you will. But if you were the Steelers, what would your message or maybe game plan be to at least try to slow him down this Sunday?
Yeah, just game tackle. Make sure that there are a lot of bodies in the way, and really make the holes for Barkley muddy. Force him to kind of bounce it outside, force him to make great individual plays, and just kind of try and get that penetration on early downs. With the Eagles, they've struggled a little bit passing the football over the last few weeks. Obviously, had 108 passing yards against the Panthers, and it hasn't been the greatest look for their passing game. So if you kind of force the Eagles to get one dimensional, obviously tackle well against Saquon Barkley and make sure and limit some of the things he can do after the carry. I would say tackling him on that first or second contact will be important to slowing him down and forcing him to try and make great individual plays rather than following his blocking. So that would be, if I was the Steelers, a message. He's a great player. He's going to break through and have a good run, but it's about not letting those things string together and forcing the Eagles into third and long situations.
Barkley isn't the only dominant part of the Eagles' run attack. I think everyone is very aware of the formidable tush push that the Eagles perform with Jalen Hurts under center. A lot of teams have kind of been trying to copycat the tush push over the last couple of years, but none have really had the same success, if you will, as the Eagles have. What do you think the reason for that is, and why is just Philly so good at it?
Yeah, I think when you have a physical quarterback like Jalen Hurts that isn't afraid to, get low and really get into that pile, I think that's the difference. Other quarterbacks, you figure you get 1 yard, you can just push forward, but I think over the stories that we've been able to do on the tush push, just all about Jalen Hurts getting low and also the center getting off the ball and getting some pushback straight up the middle because a lot of teams will obviously load the middle of tush push formation and try to send guys over the top. But if you go low enough, and that's what Jalen Hurts does really well, none of that will really matter because you can get that surge. And now obviously the second and third pushes behind from Goddard, Saquon Barkley, etc. So I really think it has a lot to do with the physicality that the Eagles play with, and it starts with their quarterback Jalen Hurts.
Well, like you said, the Eagles have been running the football early and often every single game, and rightfully so. They've been having a lot of success with it. But as a result, like you said, their pass offense has kind of been in the lower parts of the league, ranking second worst, in fact, in the league. Now, I think when you look at them on paper, wide receivers A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, tight end Dallas Goedert, when he's healthy, they're a formidable group themselves. Uh, do you think this is a game that the Eagles maybe look to overcorrect that, or do you think they just keep working with what's been working with Barkley and Hurts and continue to run the football as much as they have?
I think there will be a more concerted effort. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get AJ Brown involved early, Devontae Smith involved early, and try to establish that balance. I know, obviously it's still going to be runs on early downs and still trying to establish the line of scrimmage. But I think you're going to see a little bit, probably a more concerted effort from the Eagles to attack the outsides, attack the boundaries, and really get Jalen Hurts going. They know, in this stretch run over the last few weeks of the season that they're going to need to start to correct some of those issues they have with the passing game. And they talked about it as much this week, wanting to, just be better in the passing game, and obviously it starts with Hurts, but it's also, the play designs from Kellen Moore, the protection. Because, I think a lot of people have focused on Hurts not necessarily connecting with his receivers, maybe turning down throws, but he hasn't always been in the cleanest pockets as well. So I think it's a whole concerted effort and kind of a mentality that they want to kind of shift to. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see early in the first few drives, Hurts throws it a little bit more than they have been in the past few games in establishing a run with Saquon Barkley.
I know AJ Brown has been a little bit outspoken about not receiving the ball, I guess, as much as he'd like. Do you think that is going to play a part in getting him involved earlier in the game than before? Or, is it, just kind of taking what the defense is going to give them on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's just taking what the defense is going to give them. At the end of the day, obviously Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown have, a long history together, a long friendship, and that's carried over to the Eagles as well. But I also think they just, kind of demand excellence from themselves. So I don't think you'll see necessarily them force feed AJ Brown the ball. Obviously the last time these two teams played, AJ Brown did have a big game against the Steelers. So I know they have obviously that in mind, but I think you won't see, like a crazy amount of targets to AJ Brown. You'll see him get involved early, but I don't think they're going to force the ball to him unless the Steelers defense is playing off coverage or allowing opportunities for Brown to get open.
Well, let's flip to the other side of the ball. The Eagles, like we said, had the second worst pass offense, but they have the second best pass defense. And I think a big reason why are rookies Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. They've been lighting it up in that secondary for you guys. What do you think made them so enticing coming out of this year's draft? And what have they just been doing in general to make that group as good as they have been this year?
Yeah, obviously, with Nick Sirianni, he had a long history with Jason Candle, the Toledo coach, and that's where Quinyon Mitchell came from. So obviously, he's getting that information from them, that personal relationship. But I think, for the Eagles, it probably was down at the Senior Bowl when Quinyon Mitchell put on the show, in Mobile. So I think with Quinyon, he's a guy that has nice size, nice instincts, ball skills, really aggressive at the catch point, and not afraid to be left alone on the island. He's often that at Toledo. Obviously they didn't play a ton of press man coverage, but he had a great ball skills, great awareness and coverage, and that has carried over. He's been confident and really stood out. Throughout the training camp and early season practices. And then obviously in the game, he's really done a nice job and not getting beat, not giving up the big play, and keeping everything in front of him and also contesting catches. I think That's been the most impressive thing with him. And then DeJean, I think is probably even more impressive considering he missed most of training camp with an injury and was kind of behind the eight ball. Didn't really get the start until after the bye week for the Eagles, and really since that point, he's really steadied the secondary. I think. I think we look at kind of what the Eagles can do now. DeJean is really holding down the slot position. Is a great tackler in the open field, which helps them get off the field on third downs, especially when they go to zone coverage. So both guys have been really consistent in the tackling department and just been really solid in coverage and really haven't given up too many big plays. I know Cooper Jean was a little frustrated after last week's game against Carolina. Adam Thielen got to him a little bit. I think he had 4 catches on 5 targets when matched up with DeJean, according to Next Gen Stats. But DeJean otherwise has been really solid. So I think both guys came in with the mentality that they want to come and help the defense wherever they can. And especially with DeJean, who played outside corner mostly at Iowa, has fit in nicely in the nickel role for the Eagles defense and really has solidified that spot as well.
Well, they're going to get a little bit of a lighter attack from the Steelers this Sunday. Wide receiver George Pickens has been ruled out for the second straight week with a hamstring injury. Do you think the Eagles' preparation changes because of that, or do you think it remains the same with a guy like Mike Williams still being a similar archetype as George Pickens, probably taking over his role this weekend?
Yeah, I think it's still the same preparation. Russell Wilson throws a great deep ball, and it's been a great equalizer for the Steelers' offense. So, limiting those big plays has been a key department of Vic Fangio coming in and kind of solidifying the Eagles' defense. You saw they kind of struggled with that in the early season and giving up some big plays, but in this win streak, they've done a pretty good job of keeping things in front of them and not allowing the defense to get behind them. So I think that'll be a continued focus. But obviously, stopping the run is going to be important against the Steelers, against Najee Harris, and what that offensive line can do. So I think those are 1A, 1B in terms of trying to limit what the Steelers can do offensively.
Well, I know this offseason, the Steelers also took a long look at Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. And I think a reason why is the recent acquisition of now assistant GM Andy Weidl for the Steelers. He was learning under Eagles general manager Howie Roseman for some time there in Philadelphia. And I think these two teams are kind of starting to resemble one another roster wise. Do you see that as well? And what are the similarities between these two teams entering this matchup?
Yeah, I think it's all about building the team in premium positions. Offensive line was a big focus for the Steelers. I know in the draft and in the offseason and trying to really develop it and have a solid front five. So the Steelers can be protected, obviously in passing situations, and also create running lanes in the run game. So I think that's kind of the first similarity I see, and then really building those premium positions. So edge rusher is always going to be, kind of a big one to address, and obviously Steelers have one of the better duos in the NFL. You look at what the Steelers have been kind of able to do receiver wise and tight end wise. They have really good guys, multiple guys, depth. Guys that they can develop, and obviously they brought in Mike Williams, but you look at the rest of the Steelers, kind of receiver room is a lot of guys that they developed or want to kind of build up, and that's kind of similarly how the Eagles were built. Obviously, they acquired AJ Brown, but other than that, a lot of their receivers are home built. I know they also brought in Jahan Dotson as well, but generally speaking, they typically go with the mindset they want to build their receivers at home. And Quez Watkins was someone like that I know went briefly to Pittsburgh, but Quez Watkins was a big part in Philly, and they wanted to kind of help and develop him. So I see those similarities, building it through the front five. On the offensive line and also the defensive line. Obviously, Keanu Benton got drafted last year to kind of help solidify the Steelers defensive line alongside Cam Hayward. You saw the Eagles do something similar with Jalen Carter, bring him in with Fletcher Cox, and now Carter is the top guy alongside Jordan Davis. So you see kind of those positions that they really value. You kind of see it be aligned. And then at the linebacker position, I wouldn't say either team necessarily values it highly, even though I know that the Steelers did bring in Patrick Queen, but the Eagles brought in Zach Bond and have got a bargain for their play. He's been one of the better linebackers, so you kind of see those similarities and uh, you know how they're valuing things. DBs are the same way as well. So I think that those are kind of the similarities I see, and they want to get premium positions in and develop them.
Well, something they also have similar in is double and sometimes triple dipping into the Georgia Bulldogs. Uh, Several guys on both sides of the ball for both teams. This past week, Steelers offensive tackle Broderick Jones even said that this game could look like a Georgia 2022 practice. What do you think the reason is for the Steelers and Eagles' high interest in Georgia? Is it just because they've been so good, or is their development just on another level right now?
I think probably their development just aligns with, wanting to get guys that can contribute early, because when you look at Georgia, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because I think that's where most of the guys have come from, there's been an emphasis on, with them kind of being pro ready, but being in a more complicated scheme, playing under Kirby Smart, one of the better defensive minds, and not just college football, but I think just in general football. He's just one of the best defensive coaches in the game right now. And learning under them and being able to develop and come in immediately and play a big role. So I think the success Georgia has definitely played a part, but their track record, over the last few years and getting guys in the league and getting guys to play at a high level, I think have really attracted teams and especially the Eagles and Steelers. You look at the number of guys on the roster making impacts. Darnell Washington for the Steelers, that is more of a blocking guy. Broderick Jones. You look at the Eagles, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Nolan Smith is even playing a bigger role in year two. Now that the Eagles are without Bryce Huff for a while, so you and Brandon Graham as well. But yeah, I think it's just more about the development phase for them and being able to come in and be immediate media contributors.
Well, like we said, these two teams have a lot of similarities, but I can't get you out of here without getting your prediction for this Sunday. Who do you have coming out on top in this one?
Yeah, I think it'll be a close one. I think it's 23-20 Eagles. I think it's just going to be one of those low scoring, score a couple touchdowns on each side, but a lot of ball position placement. But I think the Eagles are on a roll right now. I think they'll fix some of their issues that they have with the passing game and not just relying on Saquon Barkley. I think they'll get a few explosive plays from AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts and find a way to eke out a win.
Yeah, I agree. I've got the Eagles 26-24. Steelers missing some reinforcements on that defense. Deshaun Elliott and defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi also slated to miss this one. So I think the Eagles are able to do just enough on offense to escape this one with a win and continue that incredible home streak that they have against the Steelers. One last thing before we get you out of here. Every Steelers Spotlight episode, I like to give our guests the opportunity to spotlight someone or something in their life. It can be someone who had an impact on your career or just a cool interaction you've had with a player or coach in the locker room. What would you like to share?
Yeah, I think I would probably give a shout out to my boss Mike Huang at the Inquirer. He's really helped me over the last few years since I joined the Inquirer in 2022 and being able to cover a lot of different things. So I got to cover a few Eagles games, some college football games. Just covered the Big Ten championship game last weekend. So want to give him a shout out for kind of helping me be able to cover some of these live events and get to cover the NFL draft and the process and go to the draft a few years ago as well. So it's been an awesome time since joining Inquire. A lot of cool and unique things that I've been able to do, and also just being able to travel to all these different places. I've gone from everywhere to Mobile, Alabama, to I went to college football playoff game in Atlanta. The NFL draft in Kansas City. So it's really been an awesome time getting to wear the Inquirer, and just want to give a shout out to my boss.
Very cool. Well, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on today and talk some Steelers Eagles. I think we're going to have a good matchup this weekend for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on, Aaron.
Absolutely. Well, that is all for this episode of Steelers Spotlight. I'm Aaron Becker. Until next time.